Let's make a reconnection. Let's go back to the Republican primary in New Hampshire. Polls point to a Mitt Romney win, but Romney's rivals are not giving up. We have sorted out our technical issues, we hope. Republican analyst Lenny McAllister joins me now. He's a senior contributor to Politic 365 and host of the internet radio program Get Right with Lenny McAllister. And Lenny McAllister joins me now live from Chicago. Lenny, what are Republicans looking for in a man?
Unfortunately, it looks as though they're looking for a little bit of an amalgamation of all different types of characteristics from the different candidates in there. They're not settled on one candidate. It's Romney by default, Huntsman if he had a little bit more personality, Ron Paul based on his fiscal policies, Newt Gingrich based on his historical perspective on things, and Rick Santorum based on his Christian conservatism. And you just can't combine them all into one candidate. They were hoping that would be Rick Perry. He has floundered mightily. So what you're going to find is a continuation of Romney being out front, people targeting Romney, and hopefully to these other candidates, they'll be able to chip away at his lead in South Carolina and in Florida.
What is it that the voters, I should say the Republicans who are voting in these primaries and caucuses and independents and those who have been polled, what is it that gives Romney the edge?
Just experience. He's been running for president basically since 2007. He's raised an awful lot of money, and unlike the other candidates that have had flubs publicly when it comes to some missteps speaking, he hasn't had quite those same amounts of mistakes. People have already forgotten about the $10,000 bet that he made with Rick Perry because it's been so long ago. It's been 3 debates ago, and since then you've had Newt Gingrich make mistakes, you've had Rick Santorum make mistakes, you've had Herman Cain, who had dropped out basically around that time, and Michelle Bachmann that has dropped out. So Romney's able to keep the money and the early momentum and just kind of stay away from the pack. And as long as the other ones can't significantly chip away at that lead, he's going to have the money to go to distance.
Yeah, speaking of money, you know what I found really interesting? Vivian Novak from the Center for, I think it's Responsive Politicians, says as an extraordinarily large amount of money from Ron Paul comes from the grassroots. In other words, $200 or less. Would it be fair to say he's the people's choice?
He could be shaping up to be that, but he's always had that niche of folks that have followed him throughout his career. The person that is trying to become the people's choice is Rick Santorum. Ron Paul, unlike, or I should say very much like Mitt Romney, already has his ceiling. The person that is expanding their ceiling and has already done it through Iowa is Rick Santorum. He's trying to fill that niche as being the people's candidate. It'll be interesting to see if he can do that, because if he can, you'll see his fundraising continue to go up and you'll see him continue to rise in the polls and solidify that number 2, particularly if he can do well in South Carolina heading into Florida.
Other than the sweater vest, how does he do that?
He does that by being a true Christian conservative, somebody that was saying these things when it was not popular. So he was the guy that a lot of Democrats did not like in the early 90s because of his positions. So whereas Romney's seen as this Johnny-come-lately conservative, Rick Santorum can say, listen, I took and fought the good fight both when it was popular and unpopular. He lost in 2006 and was trounced out of his Senate seat because he was that Christian conservative. He can at least say now that he has earned his medal as a conservative, unlike Mitt Romney.
Okay, so Mitt Romney has the edge. I was going to ask you, how much influence will the Christian right have in this election? You know, especially since Mitt Romney is one of the big knocks against him is, will the real Mitt Romney please stand up? Are you liberal or are you a conservative?
Well, we saw the Christian conservative come out in Iowa. Remember, Rick Santorum was in the low single digits. He ended up losing by 8 votes. If a similar phenomenon comes about in South Carolina where there were nothing but Christian conservatives, now you have Rick Santorum solidifying himself as number 2, going into Florida, going into Super Tuesday. And if it becomes a 2-person race, you have 75% of the Republican Party that says we don't want Mitt Romney. If Santorum can capitalize and get the majority of that 75%, it's going to be a dogfight all the way to Tampa, Florida.
All right. Republican analyst Lenny McAllister, I want to thank you for speaking with me from Chicago, Lenny. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol. God bless.
Okay, we'll do it again.